Hello everybody, welcome back to the Outer Rim Cantina. My name's Alan, and today I'm here to talk all about Obi-Wan Kenobi because the series is finally at an end. So we're going to be talking a bit about what I really liked about the show, what I didn't like so much about the show, and what the future holds for Obi-Wan himself and for some of the other characters that were introduced throughout the series. But before we dive in, if you enjoy the video, then don't forget to give it a like. Those really do help boost the channel in the YouTube algorithm, and any support is appreciated. If you love Star Wars and want even more discussions, analysis, news, and theories, then subscribe to the Cantina today and turn on post notifications so you never miss an upload or a live stream. So as most of you probably know, if you've been following the channel for a while, I really just did not like the idea of an Obi-Wan Kenobi series even being a thing. I was against it from the beginning. I am pretty much in the camp of I want Star Wars to be new all the time. I want new planets, new characters, new stories, everything to be new. That's why I love The Mandalorian Season 1 so much, is because it had all of those things. It was loosely tied to what had come before it in Return of the Jedi, the original trilogy, the prequels, all of that stuff, but the important thing about that show was that you didn't need any prerequisite knowledge of Star Wars to understand it, and to get into it, and to enjoy it. That is when Star Wars is at its best. Not when they're making the same old stories with the same old characters doing the same old stuff, which is exactly what the Obi-Wan Kenobi series is. It's the same old characters, same old kinds of stories, it's just a lot of the same, which is what I thought it would be from the very moment that the show was announced. However, what they did very well, in my opinion, is they included enough new things, they included enough little lore bits, they included enough new characters and new planets to make it interesting for me. And I never expected this to happen, but somehow the people behind this show made it my second favorite of the live-action Disney Plus series that we've gotten so far, behind Season 1 of The Mandalorian. That's how good I thought this show was. Now, granted, of course, it's still a show about Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's still set in the same 20-year time period between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. But, like I said, there was enough there to get me and keep me interested throughout the whole thing, which I didn't think they were going to be able to pull off, but they did it extremely well. And something else they did extremely well was they managed to create a show that had stakes high enough to where it mattered, even though you knew that all of the major players had to survive the show. You know Obi-Wan Kenobi has to survive, you know Darth Vader has to survive, you know Leia and Luke and Beru and Owen have to survive, yet they made it enjoyable enough that I was almost able to forget that fact. And I was just really shocked by the level of newness that they did give, while also keeping it about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like, originally, I, like a lot of people, thought it was just going to be a show about Obi-Wan vibing on Tatooine, and he would talk to Qui-Gon Jinn, and, I don't know, fight some Tuskens, or something like that. People thought it was gonna be kind of like the old Obi-Wan Legends book. But it was absolutely nothing like that whatsoever, which I appreciate. But speaking of Legends stuff, they did actually include a surprising amount, and I do mean surprising compared to the last several Star Wars projects we've gotten, a surprising amount of Legends lore. They canonized like half a dozen Jedi from the Children of the Force series. I think they even canonized Ram Koda, and they confirmed that Quinlan Vos did in fact survive Order 66, and they also gave us the path this underground railroad, if you will, of just random people banding together to help young Force-sensitive kids to escape the Empire. And right, you heard in the show, Quinlan Vos sometimes helps with the path, and there's just so many other Jedis whose names are on the walls of these safe houses that also help with the path, or they've been through the path. And that's what I'm talking about when I say that there was enough little lore bits and background info drops to keep a fan like me interested. Now, something to keep in mind with this show is it is 100% geared towards the casual audience. It is geared towards the audience who just goes and watches a Star Wars movie whenever a new episode whatever hits the theater, and they talk about it for a bit, they enjoy it, and then they move on. This show is targeting the casual fan. It was not targeting the super fans, the people who had watched all of the Clone Wars, who had watched Rebels, who had played Jedi Fallen Order. Like, it was not for those people, even though there was elements in there to keep those people engaged. Ultimately, this show exists as a stopgap between episodes 3 and episodes 4 for people that don't want to watch the cartoons or don't want to play the video games or read books or whatever. It exists as a live-action, movie-esque thing for them to consume that kind of bridges the gap between Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi and the Alec Guinness Obi-Wan Kenobi. And with that being the ultimate goal of the show, I think they did that. I think it was fantastic. That the whole Obi-Wan's whole journey throughout this show was great. I loved it. It was engaging, more so than I ever thought it would be, and they overall just did a very solid job of it. But the other reason that Obi-Wan Kenobi is my second favorite of the live-action series is because it's the one that has felt the most consistent. The production team behind Obi-Wan Kenobi seems to have finally found their footing with these live-action series. They knew what they were going to do from beginning to end. The show didn't take any weird detours or just go completely off the rails and introduce characters that have absolutely nothing to do with the main plot of the show. It stayed true to itself from beginning to end, and I appreciate that, and for the love of the Force, I hope that they keep on doing that, because this is by far one of the best shows since Mando Season 1, just for that reason alone, because it actually knew what it was doing and not trying to be anything else, not trying to interconnect itself with a whole bunch of other different plots. On the other hand, though, what I didn't like so much about the show is that it was a stopgap. I don't feel like it added much in the way of any meaningful elements to the canon. I mean, besides the path, besides finding out Quinlan Vos is alive, and canonizing a few random Jedi names by writing them on the wall in the background of a few shots, that's pretty much it. Like, ultimately, this show didn't need to happen. And that's been my problem with the last few Star Wars series we've gotten. Not just the live action stuff, but the animated stuff as well. It doesn't need to happen. It doesn't further the canon in a super meaningful way like The Mandalorian Season 1 does, or did. And I know I keep going back to that as the example, but it is the prime example of what I want from Star Wars, what I think Star Wars should be. And it should be new stuff, which brings me to the point of, I don't know why it seems like Lucasfilm has backpedaled so hard from the original goal of The Mandalorian Season 1, because Mando Season 2, right, you just had like a different cameo every week, and the whole thing just felt like one big advertisement for the Clone Wars or Rebels or, you know, whatever else. And then with the Book of Boba Fett, like, yeah, it was cool, I guess, to an extent, but again, I don't really care about a story about Boba Fett. I don't need it. It doesn't further the canon in any meaningful way that the comics or book series already didn't do. And I think that's the biggest problem that Lucasfilm is facing right now, is they're trying to create these stopgap series to cast a wide net to the Star Wars audience, to the casual fan, to try and bring them in and bring them on board with all of this Disney Plus stuff. And it's not working. At least not for fans like me and for the super fans of Star Wars. I wholeheartedly believe that Lucasfilm should be taking the Marvel approach to their shows, which is, yeah, with a few of them, we cast a wide net for fans of the original Avengers movies and all of that stuff, but we bring them in to these stories, we introduce them to these new, more unknown characters, and then we get them hooked on that stuff and invested in that stuff and start catering to the super fans and start making these series and these shows about the less known characters and building on the lore, like with Moon Knight and Miss Marvel, and I mean even Hawkeye. All of those Marvel shows were fantastic. But yet on the Star Wars side, we have a show about Boba Fett for some reason. We have a show about Obi-Wan Kenobi for some reason. We're getting a show about Ahsoka for some reason, as if the entirety of the Clone Wars and most of Rebels wasn't also about Ahsoka. We're getting a show about Lando Calrissian, of all things. Like, it's just so disappointing to me to see Lucasfilm go in this direction of only making stories about the same old characters, doing the same old stuff in the same old time period in the universe that we've seen countless times before, that we've seen since 1977. Like, they went out of their way to make an entirely new trilogy, to separate that trilogy by multiple decades from the other movies, from the other content. Yet they're not doing anything with it. And I understand there's fan backlash against the sequel trilogy. Whatever, there was fan backlash against the prequels too, but now they're some of the most beloved Star Wars movies of all time. My point is that why did they go out of their way to make this trilogy, besides Disney wanting money, obviously, if they're not actually going to do anything with it? Because it seems at this point that they just want to ignore it altogether, even though I think that is a terrible, terrible idea, and just focus on milking the same characters and the same stories and the same eras as much as they possibly can, rather than actually branching out and doing new stuff. But that's really the only negative things I have to say about the Kenobi series. Overall, the writing was super solid, the action was super solid, Kenobi's story arc was very compelling, the directing was fantastic. I absolutely love Deborah Chow. I hope she gets to do so many more Star Wars things, give her another series, movies, whatever. I absolutely love what she does with Star Wars because she gets Star Wars, and while this show might not be my favorite in terms of giving me everything brand new, planets, characters, everything like that, she gets Star Wars in the essence of she knows what she should do with these legacy characters while also expanding the lore in a few minor ways that don't end up distracting from the main point of the show or the main characters of the show. So overall, I think she, Joby Harold, the rest of the writers, I think they all struck a very good balance given what they were trying to do, given this ambitious project that they were trying to do, and I think overall it worked out very well. That being said, this really does seem like a series that would have worked better as a movie, because that was the original intent. Right back when Rogue One and Solo were coming out, Lucasfilm was going down the road of, okay, well, we're gonna make a bunch of anthology movies, really honing in on specific single characters and telling their meaningful stories. And Solo was fantastic in that regard. Rogue One was absolutely fantastic in that regard. It is literally one of the best Star Wars movies ever made. But because Solo was a box office failure because of various and sundry reasons that didn't actually have to do with the overall quality of the movie itself, they decided to scrap those ideas. And a couple of those anthology ideas were for a movie about Boba Fett and a movie about Obi-Wan Kenobi, and both of those have now become Disney Plus series. And while on the one hand, I think the Book of Boba Fett worked very well as a show, even better than it probably would have worked as a movie, the flip side of that coin is that I think Obi-Wan Kenobi would have worked better as a movie rather than a series, because I don't really think there needed to be 5.5 hours of content to tell this particular story. I feel like it could have been done in 2.5 or 3 hours, and it wouldn't have lost out on much of the emotional weight and value of the story itself. So, what I'm trying to say is that converting all of these anthology movie ideas into Disney Plus series, probably it's not the best idea. I would really, really, really love to see the anthology series of movies come back, but sadly that will probably never happen. Now, what's in store for the future of some of these characters that were introduced in Obi-Wan Kenobi? Some of the new stuff that I was talking about, the stuff that I really liked, the characters that I really liked. Like, at the top of the list being Reva. She's a fantastic character, by far one of the best characters we've gotten in a very long time. I absolutely loved her journey in Kenobi. I thought it was fantastic, it was emotional, it had weight to it. Moses Ingram is a fantastic actress, and allegedly, there is a rumor, so take this with a grain of salt naturally, but there is a rumor that there is going to potentially be some kind of Reva spin-off series to tell more of her story, because surprisingly, she actually survives at the end of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, which I didn't think was going to happen whatsoever, because most of the time, Lucasfilm just kills any of the most interesting characters, right? They killed Trilla in Fallen Order, they killed Ben Solo in The Rise of Skywalker, so I figured it was just going to go with that same trope of Reva turns out not to be totally evil, but then she dies anyways. But apparently she turned out not to be totally evil and actually went on to survive. So hopefully we will get lots more Reva content in the future, and there's also another rumor which I think is fairly interesting, and I made a tweet about it the other day, about Cameron Monaghan, the actor who played Cal Kestis in Jedi Fallen Order and did the motion capture for the whole game and all that stuff. He's allegedly signed a deal for a Star Wars Disney Plus series. Now, people have been speculating that it's going to be a Cal Kestis-focused Disney Plus series, but now that Reva has survived Kenobi, there is a possibility, and this is just me getting my hopes up for absolutely nothing, of course, but what I would love to see happen would be for Reva to meet up with Cal, and for those two and Marin and, the rest of the Mantis crew and whoever else Reva meets along the way to get together and have an adventure of their own in their own series, and I think that would be fantastic. I think it would be probably one of the best Disney Plus Star Wars series if they do it right. Now, remember, right, this is just a rumor, me speculating, me being hopeful about Star Wars for once. But after I finally got what I wanted in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, which is Qui-Gon Jinn as a Force ghost, and yes, I was absolutely sobbing at the end of Episode 6 when Qui-Gon finally showed up, I'm hopeful about Star Wars again. And that's something I didn't think I would be able to say I haven't been able to say for years and years now, is I'm actually hopeful about the direction that Star Wars is going to go in, despite having to wade through all of these random, weird personally, I think they're pointless stories about legacy characters just to get to the new stuff, like the Acolyte series, like Taika Waititi's Star Wars movie, like the Rian Johnson trilogy, like Rogue Squadron. There's so many cool and hopefully unique Star Wars projects on the horizon that, yeah, I'm actually just excited about Star Wars again. But those are just my thoughts on the Obi-Wan Kenobi series as a whole, what I liked, what I didn't like, and what I hope to see in the future. So overall, like I said, it's my second favorite of the live-action Star Wars series that we've gotten so far. I hope to see that same sort of style that we got with Kenobi and with Deborah Chow's directing work in other more unique projects in the future. But that's all the time I've got for today. If you want even more Outer Rim Cantina content, I also have a podcast that I do with my friend Ashley, where we just talk about anything and everything Star Wars, from analyzing episodes of Kenobi to watching old Star Wars content and proving that it is good, actually, and just whatever other Star Wars related topics we want to talk about. So if you're interested in listening to the podcast, the link is down below. We try to upload episodes on a weekly basis every Monday morning, so check those out. We already have almost like 10 episodes done, so there's plenty of content for you to listen to down there. And if you want even more daily Outer Rim Cantina content, you can follow me on Twitter at Outer Rim Can and Instagram at Outer Rim Cantina. Both of those links are down in the description as well. And I hope to see you guys back here in the cantina next time for another Star Wars video. Until then, may the Force be with you.